We are starting. So we will start with Hadaza and Astra on the Gungnir.
Okay.
What are you two doing? You sitting down enjoying pancakes
Sleeping.
or
Or
sleeping?
didn't you miss the
Probably.
end of the IB? Nothing's moved since then.
Okay, well, this is your opportunity to move something.
Hodge will have rolled out of bed and, no pun intended, and headed to the galley to get some tea.
Okay.
She's not hungry. And she's got a lot to think about.
All right.
Astra is probably in the training bay training, so
Probably in the training booth.
training bay, training area, whatever.
Okay. Be advised, there's not technically a training bay; it's a cargo area.
Okay. Whatever it is that we use to train, that's where Astra is.
Okay. So
Okay, that came to a screeching nowhere. Well to go.
you walk into the kitchen.
Ooh.
And you feel
Wait,
this. You feel
Michael,
yes.
who walks into the kitchen,
The only one who said she's gonna go to the kitchen to get tea.
who's who hasn't been in a Bacta tank in 2 days and is barely walking?
Well, barely walking and still walking.
Oh, goody, we're out of the chair. Huzzah. All right.
You feel disoriented. At first, you have reason to believe that it has to do with your injuries. You hear echoes.
Okay.
It's yeah.
Okay.
It's
go ahead.
Tessara and Astra's voice. You can hear them talking in very faint echoes in your mind.
Okay.
They're talking about you. You can't make out the exact words, but the sensation you get, the feeling you get, is Tessara is upset or disappointed. You're not sure which one. And it's because you're not able to control yourself. You're incapable of handling more advanced techniques.
That
And you hear Astra's voice again echoing in your mind, agreeing. That you were so weak that you couldn't even stay conscious through the whole lesson.
this is suspicious, honestly, because if Sarah and Astra, she knows these women well enough to know they would not be having this conversation about her behind her back. Tasara would have had it with her face, to her face, out of a level of concern. So she's not buying what she's hearing.
Again, you're not hearing it through your ears.
Okay. Well, okay, then I use hearing as a euphemism.
Okay, I just
Not-
want to make sure you understand this. You, the
Thank
player,
you.
understands this. And you're finding you have to hold yourself, you have to hold yourself up because you're disoriented.
Okay.
And Tassara explains that Astra had crossed a line. Again, you're not hearing their voices or the words per se. This is kind of what you're taking out of the conversation.
Okay.
And that Tassara believes that your training should stop for everybody's well-being, including your own.
No. And then no. And then no again. Okay. No. And then no again. And she's just like, nope, no, no, just no. She'll say that out loud in the room.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You're alone.
Okay. And she knows it's her own. She's shaking it off. She like literally is like, she's got her hand to her face over one eye and she's just sort of trying to shake off the weariness. And she knows that what this has got to be nothing more than an internal doubts. So she sits down and in the nearest chair and she tries to calm and meditate the way Tassara taught her to really center her thoughts and to really sink down and just let go of the doubt and let go of all of that. She's really tapping into Tassara's training.
Okay. And you hear the door open up behind you, and you turn to see the professor walking in with Falynn. And they walk right through you.
What?
And they're laughing and talking. And
Does she feel anything when they walk through her?
No, just they walk right through you. And their voices are echoed in your mind. And you see Falynn, and this is the odd thing about both of them. The professor is wearing a robe. You've seen him wear this robe before. It's hard to tell if he's wearing anything else underneath it. And she's wearing one of his shirts that hangs well below her hips. And she's not wearing anything from that leg or from that point down, including her bare feet.
Okay.
And she leans up against one of the counters as he's like reaching in and pulling out, and you recognize the 10. It's Durro's little T10. And they're talking again, echoing in your mind. And she's like, "It has been so long since I've let myself go like this."
Mm. She rises from the table.
Well, you never sat down.
Yes, she did.
Okay.
She rises from the table. She turns from the room and she walks away. If they walked through her and she saw them, or like they physically passed through her presence, she is not going to be alone in this room.
You hear a very odd question from her. She asks the professor, Kenobi, and she actually calls him Ben. She asks him, so they really survived spending time in the storm? And he answers, according to Handyman, yes. There'll still be some time needed in healing, especially Hadaza. Durro should be out in a couple hours or so. And then he smiles. We have the whole ship to ourselves in private. Till then, the girls are enjoying a camping trip. And
She
she's...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What are you doing?
She turns her head and she cocks an eyebrow. And continues to listen.
And she moves towards him, placing a hand on the side of his face. And that's when you notice her like very not button shirt and the bare flesh underneath. She leans in and kisses. I'm eagerly enjoying having at least most of the ship to us. I'm sorry, to ourselves, not us. And he kisses her back, passionately.
She nods her head once, turns back around, understanding not what she understands what she's seeing, but she doesn't understand why she's seeing it. And she takes a deep breath and she walks out. And her shoulder blades are bristling.
Okay. What are you doing?
Her go to, hurt or not, is to go to the training area. That's her sanctuary. That's where she usually works off all of her frustrations, and she knows she's barely mobile, but it's still a familiar place of comfort. So that is where she'll head.
Okay. So you head to the training area. And you see Astra doing training. Because she said she's in the training area. So obviously she's doing training.
She'll walk in, sit down, and watch Astra.
Astra, you see Hadassah walk in.
Hadaza, you're up?
I am.
Is everything okay?
I'll answer that with a, why, yes, I'm fine, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Would you do me a favor and come with me to the galley?
Sure, but stay out of the kitchen. And she'll smile.
She'll roll her eyes and grin at Astra. No, I don't plan on doing any cooking.
Okay, good.
I need your I need your sensitivity and your skill set.
4, and Astra will give her a weird look because she's a little confused.
Because I don't know how to suss out what I just experienced, and I need a second set of eyes.
Okay, let's go to the um words of work today. What did we call it again?
It has so many names. I think we opted for the galley at this point.
Yeah, let's go there.
And on the way back, she'll tell Astra not what she about the conversation that she heard Sarah and Astra have in her mind, but what she saw.
Okay, so to be clear, I'm going to require you to tell her in character exactly what you're telling her. I want to make sure there's no mistakes on this.
Okay. So out of character, I need to confirm that the apparitions that passed through Hodge's body also would have passed through the table. Did they appear solid or were they obviously incorporeal?
So they did not pass through the table because they walked around the table, but they did pass through Hadaza.
Okay. But she was leaning against something, so she had to appear corporeal.
It is
Correct?
so I was not aware that you were leaning against something. I was aware you were holding on to steady yourself, but that's fine. I mean, even if you're leaning against something, they could still pass through your space, and a hand or part of a body could pass through you.
You said that she leaned against something, yeah?
Fair enough. Again, part of them in their transit pass through you.
Yep, no, I got that. I heard that loud and clear. Aye, aye, Captain.
Okay.
My question is, when they were standing in front of her having the conversation, did they appear solid? Did they appear solid or did they appear as though I could see through them?
No, they appear solid.
They appeared solid, but they passed through her body. Got it. Okay. So back in character. That's what I needed to confirm out of character. Back in character. So I went into the galley to get some tea,
Okay.
and Professor and Falynn came in.
I thought they were in the library.
Uh, oh, wait for it. He was dressed in a robe. She was in very little shirt. And a conversation they had was about Handyman saying, Phelan asked him if we had survived the storm. Handyman said yes. Durro would be out shortly out of the Bacta tank, but I was going to be in it a while longer. And she said she was glad to have the time. The girls were on a camping trip, uh, and it was a very intimate scene. But in order to get from behind me to in front of me where this was positioned, it passed through me, Astra. And yet, in front of me, they appeared as solid as you and I are right now.
Does Astra know anything about um visions happening where the individual that's having the vision did not actually leave the area they were in and only saw bits of information that happened in that area?
Yes,
She does.
kind of common, especially for people who are not strong seers like Astra is.
Okay, but Astra would know this information and be able to recognize it, correct?
Solution you can jump to, yeah.
Hodge,
Yes.
I don't think it was real at
Well,
all.
I had that first clue when they passed through my body. And the second piece of that is that they didn't actually speak to one another. It was like echoes in my head. And I want you to come and, I don't know, just sort of scan the area. I don't even know
Hadaza,
if that language is right.
it wouldn't do much good to scan the area.
Why?
I think what you had was a vision.
I beg your pardon?
So, you know how I can see forward and backward in time anytime I kind of want? Or anytime it just happens sometimes, right?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah. It's when I do that, the result of those things is usually a vision.
Okay.
Now, visions are different depending on each person, but what sounds like happened to you is pretty common for it's pretty commonplace for someone who is not a seer to have happen. Where you're in an area and you see an event that happened in that area, and it's never clear, or it may not always be clear, or it may not make sense, or you may have like something's distorted in it.
Believe me when I tell you there was nothing distorted except that woman's need for a bra.
Okay, I did not need that mental image. Okay. Either way, it's pretty commonplace, and it's a skill called far seeing that we would typically use to do that on purpose. But sometimes those things just happen, if that makes sense.
Are they always visual like that?
Um, Out of character, are they? Sometimes they're just auditory, right? Meow.
Traveler, I think she's talking to you, bud.
Dude, I totally missed that.
Yeah, I asked an out of character question.
Gotta
Goodness.
call my name. Gotta say, hey, I got a question for the traveler. What you
She
got?
did say out of character.
I said out of character, goodness. Anyways, visions, they aren't always just visual. They can sometimes be auditory or other yeah, they can sometimes just be auditory, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, thank you. Um, well, they're not always just visual like that. Sometimes it's just you just hear it. Um, depending on the person and their ability, sometimes they're thrown into a completely realistic, like it's totally real to them vision, and that stuff's scary. But I don't think you have to worry about that third one.
When you say auditory, like actually hearing them, or is it always in your head?
I mean, it have to be happening in your head, but it can feel like you're actually hearing them.
So what I saw is what happened before. It's like seeing it like it happened in the past and I'm just sort of catching the rerun.
Yeah,
Like
that's
an
possible.
energetic ghost.
Hmm.
S- Yeah, it'd
From
be
the
like in
echo.
this case it'd be like an energetic ghost.
Yeah, could be.
Huh. She looks at Astra and her eyes narrow just a little, and her head cocks to one side.
Astra will take a step back and give her a weird look.
It wasn't really it wasn't really pronounced. It was the narrowing of the eyes was just a little.
Oh, okay, that helps.
Yeah, she
And
didn't squint at her all like "Whoa." It was just like a little tightening around the corners of her eyes, and she'll cock her head.
you okay?
Would the would the work that we did with telepathy have increased the chances of sensing something like that?
And Astra needs a moment to think. Out of character, would that? I don't think that works that way.
This Astra doesn't have as much knowledge on the practical, not the practical knowledge, but she doesn't have the academic knowledge to make that some to answer that conclusively. But you can make whatever answer you want based off of what Astra believes she knows.
Okay, thank you. Um, I mean, it's possible, but I don't know.
And could I pick up things if that's true? Okay, A, if that's true, why is it just happening now? I've been on this ship for months training with Tassara. Now all of a sudden this happens? And B, could I be picking up things from not only the past but from the future too, maybe? Is that possible?
Um, yeah, it's possible. Did you pick up something from the future?
You start with question A, and then Lily Soster will get to part B.
Yes, it's possible to pick things up from the future and from the past in the same sequence of visions.
Okay, so that's B. What about the first part? Why now? I've been training with Tassara for months. Why all of a sudden am I getting this?
I couldn't answer that. I mean, with what I know of how visions worked, for me, I just had one randomly when I was 10 years old, so it may just be that it just happened.
10. I suppose since I'm only a few months old, I shouldn't be feeling like I'm coming late to this party. I don't understand why now.
I don't either, but maybe Master Thaltanis or Tashara might have an idea when they get back.
And you're saying it's possible that I could receive from both the past and the future randomly without warning.
Yes.
How often?
I wouldn't suspect very often. I mean, as far as we know, you're not a seer.
As far as we know.
And I mean, that vision's pretty common for just an individual Jedi who's not a seer.
That vision is pretty common. I'm pretty sure
Or not that
seeing,
vision, that kind of vision, sorry.
again, that whole idea of that kind of vision. I'm just like, don't know that people want to notice that. Noted. All right.
I'm
Thank
not
you.
talking about the details of what took place in the vision, Hadaza. I'm talking about how it presented. Does that make sense?
So, hearing it in your head, not with your ears, but seeing it with your eyes, but not corporeally, not, but they were solid, but all right.
Yep. But I mean, we only time's gonna tell the real answer.
I see. All right. Um, I'm sorry I took you away from your training. Thank you for coming. If I had known it was going to be as simple as that, I would not have interrupted you.
No, you're fine. It doesn't bother me. Are you all right though? And
Well,
hmm?
go ahead.
And why did you ask me about future as well as past?
Well, far seeing indicates out there. Out there runs in two directions, does it not?
Yes.
And if this is something new that is going to be happening to me, and again, I don't understand, but if this is something new that I can expect, then I should have all the information, should I not?
True.
Then why are you curious about future versus past?
Because you specifically mentioned them happening in the same vision. So that tells me that there's something you may not be telling me.
What I asked was a two-part question, and Both parts were legitimate. I don't understand why you're grilling me.
I'm not meaning to. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's a legitimate question to ask. If you can see the past, can you not also see the future?
Well, yes, but for you to specifically ask if they can happen in the same vision is a little it's kind of an interesting question there, don't you think?
No, actually, I don't. I think it's the question of somebody who's curious about what they can expect. I thank you for your time, Astra. Highness. Sorry, my bad. She never would have said that. I thank you, Highness. I'm sorry. Like I said, I interrupted you. I'm going to be getting something to drink. Would you like something?
No, I'm good, thank you.
And she'll turn and walk into the galley to try and go suss out some tea.
Okay.
Need I say the galley is empty?
What? Why?
Because
Ah,
there's nobody in there.
okay, that's good. Good to know. Yes, and when you said the galley was empty, I'm like, she's going for the pantry, and like all the cupboards are bare. Like, what the hell happened? And she'll set making herself a cup of tea.
Okay. Astra will peek in just to check on Hadaza, make sure she's okay before she goes back to the training area.
Okay. So
She'll feel Astra peek her nose in. Because she's on alert at this point for anything else that may be freaking visioning around her corners of her eyes. Did you change your mind, Highness?
Nope, just wanting to make sure you're good before I go back to training.
She turns around and she leans gently against the side and adopts her normal sort of crosses arms in front of, and you've seen it. I know you saw it at Disney. Crosses her arms in front of her chest. And have I done something, Astra, that has gotten you on alert? You seem to be particularly attentive lately.
First off, you're badly injured. And you almost passed out while we were training earlier. Second, you already know the answer to that question. And third, you just had what we believe to be a vision, so yes, I'm a little worried. I know how confusing and terrifying visions can be from firsthand experience.
It wasn't terrifying. First of all, yes, bad injury. You're right. And yes, I pushed myself. I am aware of that, and it is regrettable. I should have listened to Master Anarin more closely when she said that the dark side is seductive, and apparently for me, the way through it is the entryway into it is my pride. I will need to I will need to keep that in check moving forward.
That makes sense.
And as for terrifying vision, I can assure you that while what I saw was unsettling, I would not go so far as terrifying. So, again, I ask, have I done something? You haven't left my side quite literally since Durro and Tassara left.
You haven't done well, no, that's not true. You almost poisoned the both of us. So, yes, I've been keeping an eye on you because you already know the answer there.
So you're afraid I'm gonna kill you?
No.
Really? Because that's the setup for what you just said.
I'm afraid that whatever I am worried that the programming that Duro told you about is activating and it will get worse.
I see.
There's a reason after that conversation I decided to stay with you and talk with you and try to keep your mind occupied and on something else because you had decided to focus in on that and freak out a little bit. Which, given the circumstances, is understandable.
So part of the reason you stayed behind was to make sure that I didn't hurt myself or exacerbate my injuries, and yet you're also my jailer?
I originally stayed with the intent of helping you and keeping an eye on you because you're hurt pretty badly.
Mhm.
Now, when we decided to go and get tea, get food, I wasn't expecting you to pick up a rat poison to try and cook with.
I will grant you that. But then I have to ask, why didn't you put me back in the Bacta tank when you knew I would be safe and you would as well, or lock me in my room?
I don't know how to operate the Bacta tank, remember? And you don't like being confined. You flat out told me you don't like being confined. And
You're right.
honestly, I don't like it either. So this was the alternative. The alternative I came up with, and you seem fine right now.
And yet my innocent questions about skill that came on me unbidden that you seem to think is so common raises red flags for you.
Not so
As
much that it raised a red flag. It was just curious. I was quite curious. That specific question leads me to believe there may have been more to your vision than what you told me.
funny.
But if you
And she
don't want to
cocks her head to
tell, you're
one side.
fine.
Say again?
If you don't want to tell me, you're fine. I'm just curious. I know you're sitting there rolling sense motive like 50 bazillion times. Astra is telling you the truth. The girl can't lie to you. She's telling you the truth.
I roll when the gods tell me. Um, I will fully admit being disconcerted by what I saw and heard. There is no artifice in that, which is why I came to you and asked for your eyes and ears and knowledge.
Which makes perfect sense.
It did right up until the time you accused me of withholding information when I came to you in vulnerability.
I'm sorry, Hodge. I was just curious. That particular question intrigued me.
And she turns back to the pantry and finishes pulling out the teacup and a saucer and the tea. If
So
I have,
hold on.
if anything else, go ahead.
As you open up the tea and you go to open up the teacup and everything, you see the 10 that the Professor Kenobi had pulled out
Mm-hmm.
to make tea for him and Falynn.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of just brings you back to that moment. You can see it in your memory,
Okay.
them standing here, you know,
Yes, I remember.
right.
She pulls it out and she looks at it for a second. She sets it down. And looks at the spread on the countertop. And she turns and she walks past Astra. Excuse me, Highness. And she just walks out of the galley. And heads toward her room. Or no, heads toward the ob deck. I'm sorry. She walks out and she heads toward the ob deck.
Okay.
Astral, stay out of her way.
You arrive on the observation deck.
She goes right for the whiskey decanter.
Okay.
8:00 in the morning. Bunny marks still on her arms.
So
And she'll pour a couple of fingers and stand and look out over the sand.
okay. And I'm gonna Astra, did you want to say anything, leaving your character, before I move on?
Nope, Astra's gonna go back to what she was doing before Hadaza came to ask her questions.
Training on the deck.
Yep.
Okay. So while this scene is playing out, back at the village, Durro, Kasara, Falynn, the professor, y'all are still standing there. If I remember correctly, that's how it was set up. So correct me if I'm wrong.
That is indeed how it was set up, but we are short one professor.
That's fine. Moving forward with the scene. The professor looks around and says, I believe I will, he says in his high-pitched, squeaky voice, observe from afar.
That is a terrible Professor Kenobi impression.
I apologize.
I'll have to fix that later.
Okay, so PK is going to observe from afar.
Yes.
What does Falynn do?
She looks around and sees her son standing with Nazil. Well,
Nazil, wait a minute. Nazil was asked to bring the kids back to the speeder.
yes.
So she's at the speeder.
No. I stated this before that she had returned from dropping the children off at the speeder.
My apologies.
And
Swear to all the force, those children better have stayed in that speeder.
a light paddle. um, and then she'll turn back. Unless you need my services.
Out of character. Hang on, what was that?
She turned to you guys with an expecting expression and says, unless you need my services.
Okay, I thought I missed something because it sounded like half a sentence. Durro would only say, "Well, when all this is over, I would still like to speak with you."
My hut is always open. You know where to find me.
He will nod.
You can speak to her now if you'd like. I'm going to go make sure that the girls get back to the Gungnir.
And Handyman turns to you and says, it might be wise if I take them back, and then I can return with the speeder.
Oh, yes. I absolutely mean for you to do that. She grins at him.
And Sarah and Handyman will walk off.
Problem is, out of character with everything going on and about to start, or combat about to start between these two groups, seems like the wrong time to be talking to Falynn about fighting phantom figures in people's heads.
Well, just for clarification, there does not appear to be any indication that the fighting is about to go down any minute. In fact, the visitors are still establishing where they've arrived at. There's even indications that they're setting up campfires. It looks like this is going to be something that's going to take at least a couple days.
Oh, okay. See, out of character, I was confused. I thought fighting was going to break out any minute, especially with wannabe Jedi over here.
You got cut off.
I said, especially with wannabe Jedi over here strutting around and brandishing his lightsaber.
Nope.
All right. Well, if that's the case, then Duro would not have said when this is over. He would have asked to speak with her right then, if she has a minute.
Of course.
This promises to be a longer discussion. If we could retire somewhere.
If you wish, where would you like to go?
He will glance around. He is not going to presume to invite himself to her hut.
Come.
Is there anywhere they can talk that's out of the way and not likely to be easily overheard?
I mean,
Preferably in the shade.
well, shade indicates that's probably where people are going to gather. But, I mean, there's lots of places where you could go where you can not easily be overheard. The desert being one of them. There are high walls that, protect the village from sandstorms that make up the draw that the village resides in.
He'll just, say it's a topic that might take a minute to discuss, and conversation may go on long. Perhaps if we return to your dwelling?
She nods and motions. Come.
And he will follow.
and she'll lead you back towards the heart of the village. So, what is it that you wish to discuss?
Well, considering that I was in and out while you, Astra, and Tassara were talking, I was brought up to speed and told that you are aware of the Crusade's programming in Astra, and that you suspect the same has been done to Hadaza.
Well, your assumptions are reversed, but yes, that is basically true.
I was also told that you know how to get rid of this programming.
Yes, I'm aware of that as well. It nearly cost me my life.
Well, yes, I understand that it's going to be dangerous. Almost anything that's worth anything is. But how? How did you manage to find and eliminate the programming?
I was. A good portion of my training happened on Olivon. I mentored under former Grand Master of the Olivon Order, Palpatine. Was a bit of an eccentric. Well, actually, no. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that because she would not know he's not the she. Let me take a. Let me retcon this real quick. I apologize because she doesn't know some of this information. I apprenticed under Grand Master of the Olivon Order, Palpatine. Man's quite eccentric. He he loved to explore the depths of ancient Jedi tradition. He picked up on a technique that he taught me, the ability to communicate telepathically. It's more than it's more than normal telepathy. Baseline communication. And you have to have an intimate relationship with the person you're master and a Padawan is a perfect example. The thing is if you don't have that strong, intimate relationship, it's not going to work.
Yes, I am aware of this technique. One of his students taught it to me as well.
Interesting. Well, there is a more advanced form. You can enter each other's mind. Well, there was a Jedi Order. Let's just say they used the Force very unique ways. They had the ability to attack the mind, to enter dreams, to manipulate the very sense of reality around them. It took me years to perfect the technique that Master Palpatine was tutoring me. Defenses that you have to correct, there's conditioning that you have to do before you launch such an attack. The mind has its own defenses, the auto defenses. Mind subject can't willingly shut them off. You can walk into somebody's mind once you reach these defenses, do incredible damage.
I see. And you say this was a Jedi technique.
There is one thing you need to know about the past, Sith. The Jedi have always had different sects. They've sprung up, diminished. So, technically, yes, by name, they're Jedi. But that's where the similarities.
Out of character, sorry, what was the last sentence?
But that's where the similarities.
I see. And so this more advanced technique, that is what is required to eliminate this programming.
Yes. You have to be able to get into the person's mind. Part of the technique, part of the cure, was getting into the mind and neutralizing the effects on the mind itself. The other half is you have to get into the brain itself and remove the biochip. You can't find it without neutralizing its presence. Like the mind, the biochip.
So there's a mental component as well as a physical medical component.
It's the reason why I explicitly told friends, especially
Ah,
said, it affects itself.
you said it took years to master the technique. What if I don't have years?
Then, as also said, cause serious damage.
Is there anything else you can tell me about this technique? Anything that would help me to study it? To attempt to master it? I have two people I care a great deal about who are afflicted by this crusade programming.
Carbonite will ensure that they don't pose a threat. As far as more than happy to do you take considerable time. So then I'm Kenobi saying, well, gladly teach you.
Durro would raise an eyebrow at that statement, but and then he would also glance around as if looking out at the village, even though they're in her hut. He would say, "Well, unless you have a carbon freezing chamber that I did not detect signs of, I don't think I'll be able to do that right away."
Unfortunately, because they're both force users, it was very difficult. Carbonite.
Performing this process or keeping them contained?
Keeping them contained. Performing the process, when we did it on Rose, we had to place her into a medical coma and then restrain her heavily.
I,
Whatever. Sorry, go ahead.
or he just said, I see.
You must understand that whatever Hadaza knows, the programming can access.
What do you mean?
Rose was a powerful force user. You Are you familiar with what a force warrior is?
I believe I understand the basics.
She studied someone, and she was very, even though she was in a medical coma, she still was able to resist. She nearly killed much of the party, but we were able to forcibly restrain her. It took the combined effort of two powerful force users to hold her down using force, while the rest of us tried to secure her.
And so this happened, for lack of a better term, in the real world, and not as you were trying to eliminate the programming in her mind.
It happened while I was trying to eliminate the programming. You can't see them now, but it took months for those scars to heal, he says, motioning to her.
What I mean is the damage was physical, in reality, not a mental attack of some kind.
There were those. She nearly breached my barriers. Well, not her. The programming. It will always take on the form of somebody close. In Rose's case, it took on the form of Professor Kenobi. A man she never truly knew, and yet, in her mind, always comforted her, always been there. The father she longed for. That's the weakness that the program exploits. You see, you need to understand your enemy. It's exceptionally intelligent. I would say, if I didn't know any better, it would be the closest thing to real intelligence can be manufactured. It will exploit the emotions of Daza, everything about it, to do what it must to fulfill whatever mission it's been given.
Right. You said she nearly killed most of your party. Were any of them able to help you with the mental side of things, or were they only able to help restrain her in the physical realm?
Unfortunately, I'm the only one that knew the technique. It wasn't time to teach anybody else, not basics. So, I had to go in alone.
Well, as I said, one of Master Palpatine's students taught me the ability, and I've been able to use it with my first apprentice, Tassara. I recently discovered that Astra and I share the right kind of connection, and I've used that communication technique to help her as well, even being inside her head. So, I guess my question was to ask, would Tassara be able to help me curing Astra?
It's,
Or would she have to have a connection to Astra herself?
it's possible, but if you don't have the connection, you have to overcome the mind's defenses. That's when it gets hairy, because you don't want to cause real damage to the mind.
I see. So the connection, many ways, bypasses these defenses.
In a manner of speaking. And
And the,
the stronger they are willed, harder to become those mental defenses.
yeah, well, Astra is very strong-willed.
I,
Stubborn, I would even say.
Hadaza appears to be, or senior, excuse me. Hadaza would appear to be critical. Was made. We can speculate on what happened with Astra, but Hadaza, monster waiting to kill.
Yes, well, my tactical analysis is to practice, for lack of a better term, cut my teeth on curing Astra before attempting to do the same for Hadaza.
Well, there is wisdom in it, but if you fail, you leave Astra mindless. And the very process could tip Hadaza off to trying attempt to.
Now, what if all this is done away from Hadaza, with her not having access to anything we are doing?
That is the secret. Must make sure doesn't doesn't understand. Sorry, isn't aware of what is. The moment she becomes aware, the moment she knows what's happening, the programming. There is no difference between the two, and everyone you care about.
I see. Well, I find myself in a conundrum then. It sounds like time is of the essence, unless I can get access to a carbon freezing chamber. At the same time, you tell me it takes years to master the technique required. That's years I don't have.
I offered an easier solution, friends, to Dara and Astra.
Yes, they told me your easier solution.
If you are a Jedi, then attachment form. Therefore, easier solution is practical. Must kill.
That may be the more practical and easier solution, but it is one I find repulsive. The Jedi is supposed to preserve life.
At the cost of others.
She's not done anything that I'm aware of yet.
Yet is heard. I've dealt with monsters. They hunted. I watched what they, the damage they can for those innocents caught in the crossfire. Make no mistake, the choices you make right now, others will pay the consequences.
Durro just looks very thoughtful.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You said that a Jedi must preserve all life, correct?
To an extent, but yes.
And a Jedi should also be free from their attachments, not, how should I say this, not allowing their attachments to guide or influence their decisions, correct?
Yes, that is the key. It is not that we cannot have attachments, it is that we cannot let them guide our decisions or rule our judgment.
So, the difficult question for you, Sethaltanis, is holding on to Hadaza's life more about your attachments of willing to let her go, or choosing her life as being more important to those around her? I don't ask to be sarcastic, insulting. The reason why I ask is because I made the same choice. I let my attachments govern my. When Rose's programming kicked, it kicked in at the worst possible time. Good friends of ours, who were members of another pack, she looks down. You can sense her struggling. She pushes him down. She killed them. Sleep. They're dead because of the choice I made. I hope that whatever decision you make, Master Sultan, won't haunt your conscience. Mine.
Your proposed solution seems extreme. It is the ultimate solution. There is no coming back from it. If I jump straight to that without trying any of the other solutions I have been offered, such as the one we are discussing now, that I feel would haunt me more than if I try this and fail.
I believe I've given you all the information I cannot tell you how to solve this. She is your friend. That said, I will do my best to help you. Don't ask me to mind of it. Don't believe you survive.
No, I wouldn't ask you to do that. As dangerous as it sounds, I Won't ask you to put your life on the line for that. That's a decision that I must make for myself and not one I should make for other people. How would you be able to lend aid, though?
I can answer your questions, but I sensed the monster within her. Short time she will not leave myself vulnerable. I believe there is a way I could help.
All right.
If taking Hadaza's life is something I can't do, I will offer you to carry that burden.
Oh, and here I thought you were offering something actually helpful. If I try all else and fail, then that solution is not off the table, but it can't be the first thing I try, because it would be successful, and there is no coming back from it.
If you try one of the other solutions fail, somebody may not be Hadaza. Somebody else prepared for that.
Durro will just nod.
The first time you arrived in our universe, had your sparky Desara. She's grown quite beautiful woman.
Yes, she has.
What of you? You are last to Theltanus. I take it. No longer the terrorist, no longer the imposter. Found your own way.
Well, I never really was a terrorist, and yes, I feel like I am on my own path.
Glad to hear that. There is something that has long troubled me about the Order. Sitting on the High Council, it I believe the Order has waited.
They've let dogma distract them from the core of their philosophy.
Well, I see you've talked to Master Palpatine.
I did have the honor of meeting him, but it was a conclusion I had come to even before then. It was simply something he and I agreed on.
As I said before, the has Jedi had always had a issue with different sects, different traditions. I always found it interesting how Coruscant would allow the sects ideology rise, watch them flourish, fall with a couple of. It's curious to how they practice.
What's so curious about it that none of these other traditions take hold?
It's not that Coruscant allows it to happen.
It's probably because they don't expect it to last very long.
Possibly. Olivon is the longest standing order, almost 1,000 years old.
Yes, founded in opposition to Lord Hoth, I believe.
You're not wrong. But where we, Coruscant Order, value our both Lord Hoth's vision, galaxy free from darkness, Olivon, they pursue knowledge. Greedy. The troves of information in the deepest parts of Olivon Temple. It would impress you so much. Being the Padawan Grand Master allows one restricted. Olivon sends their, with lack of a better term, grave robbers out across the galaxy, hunting down this temple or that place, wherever one might find a holocron scroll. They bring it back to Olivon, study it amongst themselves, and pass information on to their students. And some of Olivon's masters, incredibly powerful traditions that haven't been seen in the galaxy, well, the larger galaxy, thousands of years. Then they take these valuable scrolls, holocron, bury it deep in the vaults of the hidden archives.
So they hoard their knowledge.
They do. Not all sects. Well, all sects have their weak strengths.
I suppose they do. Nobody is perfect.
Indeed.
So, do you know if they found, well, most of these ancient sites?
No. That I don't know. There is a chamber, I said. Well, maybe I didn't. There is a chamber that only the High Council of. Sorry, only the Grand Council of Olivon has access. Not even apprentices. It's called the Map Room. I've seen glimpses of it as waited for Master Palpatine to come out. Or it's a great room with massive holograms, maps of the galaxy. Every temple that they've discovered marked on there.
Well, you were there when we first arrived. You heard our tale of coming from another universe.
I have.
And as I mentioned then, in the universe we came from, the Jedi were wiped out, destroyed. As far as I know, only two survivors, and I didn't meet them before coming to this universe. My master, I believe, foresaw it coming. She left me a holocron, and she was a Jedi scholar, I suppose you would call her. Her holocron included a map of all of the sites that she had visited and some of the information gleaned. I thought perhaps many of these sites existed in this universe as well. It was a quest I intended to go on when we were finished whatever we are currently chasing down. But
Well,
now I'm wondering if Olivon beat me to it.
let me see. I can tell you the sites that Master Palpatine. Remember what I said about Olivon. They are greedy with their knowledge. Not everything that Master Palpatine found, he reported back to his order.
While she was speaking, Durro would have taken out Master Mars' holocron and accessed it.
Hmm. This one here, she says, pointing to one. That one has been discovered by all of them. I know this one for a fact. These three here, Master Palpatine and I visited. Beautiful artwork on this one here. The art on the walls are some of the earliest renditions of Jedi Order that I've seen. Python here, that one is currently occupied by Mandalorian. So if you're clever enough and friendly enough with the ruler, I can't remember her name, but she's quite the harlot.
Vala.
Ah, if you're friendly enough with her, she might let you peruse their deeper dungeons where there are still places strong with the Force. You can tap visions of many. You can tap visions of how the Order looked when they were there on time. Oh, sorry, Osis. I'm thinking Osis. You're missing one.
Well, out of character, if you were thinking Osis, then Durro just would have offhandedly mentioned, yes, we had landed there briefly.
Mhm. And you're missing one here.
Out of character where?
I'm having a fucking dump. Kessel. There's a world here called Kessel. Um, Here there's a group of there's a nebula and a group of young stars and black holes. Extremely dangerous. It's a place called the Maw. There's a temple there that predates any Jedi Order Master Palpatine and I ever found. As a hunter, we pursued a dark side of there. He had become insane. He was he was hoping to reach the other side. At the time, we didn't really know what that meant until we arrived there on this world. You must be exceptionally careful if you. The plants are very carnivorous. The water is acidic in nature. Even the very air you breathe kill you.
Sounds like a lovely vacation spot.
It's quite beautiful, quite deadly. A group of soldiers we brought with us. Not a single one survived. I would suggest not bringing any non-force sensitive. But then again, even being force sensitive has its disadvantages. I believe, personally speaking, the world itself is alive. It's a consciousness, as well as a hunger. Here you'll find a temple, northern hemisphere. There's 3 major continents. If memory serves, it's the one with the most mountains. At least that's how it felt, facing this madman.
So what's on this continent? Other than an ancient Jedi temple.
That's it. Just the temple.
And what was this Darksider hoping to find in this Jedi temple?
Remember when I said he was insane, trying to reach the other side? There is a pool and a fountain. Heed my warning very carefully. Touch not lest we be consumed by darkness of the likes you've never experienced before.
Interesting. The pool and the fountain, they're separate.
They are. And regardless of what you may discern of them, they are pure nexus of the dark side.
Both of them?
Both of them.
As I said, I had the necessary connection to use the communication technique with Astra. There was a pool in her vision, but she couldn't quite access the memory. The vision was unclear. What little I could get was some kind of ancient artwork, a drawing or a mosaic that showed an image of the daughter, one of one of the ones, or the family, as I know them to be called.
They were an ancient race called the Celestials. There's a temple here that the ruins here that I invited then I Nobi visit with me. They are quite vast. I've managed to discern some of the right. I believe this race of that you daughter believe that they are celestial. I know the artwork you're talking about. I've seen it, and
So it is that same pool.
here's the problem: celestials not like you. There is no light of gift that the pool could offer, or pure power of the dark side that the font could. For us, they are simply nexuses of the dark side.
I was given to understand in most incarnations of that myth that the daughter is an avatar of the light.
Is again not of our existence. Don't ask me to explain things I don't know. However, I will tell you that touch not either, lest you be consumed by darkness. I have seen this firsthand.
Oh, I believe it. I'm just a little confused, is all. I would have imagined one to be a nexus of light and one of darkness.
I wouldn't believe all legend.
Well, no, of course not, but there is truth in legend, in most cases. The
Some truth.
stories come from somewhere. Well, a seed of truth at the very least.
the very least. Yes, they are incredibly powerful. Yes, they can bestow this power on. And yes, the dark side very much connected to whatever gifts they give.
All that being said, why would Master Palpatine be interested in this pool?
He looks thoughtful. But there's more to it than that. Sense concern. Master Palpatine has always been on find one out of Jedi love. You ever heard of a place called Museum?
Yes, I've heard it mentioned.
Master Palpatine there's a scroll not made of fabric, made of crystal. The damnedest thing I've seen. You can roll it like paper, touch it, feel it like crystal. In fact, an analysis will prove that it's crystal. This is like there's an ancient language, one that Palpatine could quote. It's very old. When we try to date it, it's all but nearly impossible because, well, we can't date crystal. However, there are pieces of residue within the carving of words that we were able to identify and date. It's been around a long time. The oldest residue we were able to date places it over 100,000.
And what information did this scroll contain?
Speaks of a great, powerful force. Force of creatures that can reshape the galaxy. Much like how a fire will destroy the forest and make way for new life. That is the assumption the Master Palpatine had with this force, that they were literally a force of nature, sent to cleanse the galaxy, allow for fresh new life to grow. However, this force only came regular intervals controlled by Elysium. The light keeps them at bay. When it flickers, they can surge forward, and when it stops flickering, they are pressed back out beyond the rims of the galaxy. It's said that the it's hard to explain, but the best way to say it is the sister race of the Celestials built this light. I don't know what that means, but I do know that that's what it says. Again, we were only able to decipher very little, less than 10%. But Elysium has been a place that Master Palpatine is searching for as long as I've known him. The problem with finding Elysium, you don't have a powerful enough seer, you'll never find it. And that seer must be willing to brave some of the worst dangers they could comprehend, gazing in the pool. Only then will the light be revealed. Something to that effect, at least. That's what the scroll warned. It's the reason why the pool was protected in the manner that it was.
Now, with a sufficiently powerful seer, would he be able to find the light of Elysium via mind walking, or would he have to physically return to the pool?
When I was his student, I know he was experimenting with mind walk. I don't know its limitations or its capabilities.
Well, the reason I saw the pool in Astra's memory is because apparently, while I was away, when we were on Olivon, Master Palpatine deceived Astra into mind walking, taking her to the pool.
Doesn't sound like Master Palpatine. He's not the man I know. But I haven't been in contact with him for many years. And even then, those contacts were usually very official. The moment I was promoted to the High Council, he's not favored. Such friendships are the can make people perceive that even with the wellest of intentions, my guidance could be tainted.
I just know what I was told and what I saw in her memory.
I know that the pool that you speak of is, again, like I'm saying, extremely dangerous. Seers, from what I understand, have the ability to look through the pool, physically look through the pool, change events to remake reality. There was an ancient order that used to call that temple home. The Jedi destroyed them for good cause. Though, good luck finding any record of this. It's not something you find.
It's not a history the Jedi will teach us.
Now, consider a group of very powerful seers capable of gazing into the past, present, and the future, stepping through their vision, making an alteration here to make the outcome what they desire.
I seem to recall, at least in my universe, the Jedi I trained with learning about a group of Force sensitives that could project themselves into the past or the future. I can't remember their name or how exactly it worked. I know it was possible, and you're saying this group could do the same thing, but with the
They
pool.
they could. The pool acts as the focal point of their ability. Without the pool, they can look through the past, do as they wish. They can even interact with limited fashion. Can't change pool anything. Is the reason why dangerous. The funny thing about it is, according to what survived the bird, that is, They bombarded the 7 days and bombarding. Good luck finding a single crater. As I said, I believe the world itself exists in the and
Very interesting indeed. Do you even have a name for this group? I know you said I'm not likely to find any records, but what little records may exist would help if I had a name.
I wish. I only did my research because chasing a dark side. He needed to know what the fragment I found was in destroyed holocron. Fortunately, almost all of the records were destroyed. I just know that the group existed, but I destroyed them. The public tried to destroy the world. Fool failed. I know what this group could do, only to a limited degree. Is the
I understand.
Is there anything else I can be as service?
Durro would return Master Mars holocron to his bag and pull out Master Palpatine's journal that he'd been perusing and following. He would say, "As I was to leave Olivon, Master Palpatine is actually the one that set me on this current path, this quest, you might say. Initially, he had given me the coordinates of a temple that he thought might house information helpful to me here," and he would point to the information Palpatine had shown him in the Yagoi system.
We've been there. I don't know why he would send you here. It's a very violent world.
Professor Kenobi seems to think it has a link to well, something that we need to fight the swarm. He wanted to come here to gain an advantage that the Prelock told him about, and after that we were going to, I believe, go to this system.
It might have something. I don't know. I do know this. We've been here. It is an extremely dangerous world. The world itself had many times over destroyed itself. It's almost as if they're on an endless cycle of growth or birth, growth, and then destruction at the hands of Holocaust.
Interesting. And yet there was a temple on this world?
We couldn't find one. We spent many years searching for it. We ended up having to cut our activities short due to the fact that it's extremely dangerous.
Well, I suppose we'll see if we go there. Out of character, I thought that was what Master Palpatine had said. The information was in a temple he had been able to study.
Remember what she said about her relationship with him and that information.
That's true. Except she was just saying she was there, so unless
No,
he
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, she was saying that she and Palpatine had been there.
Right. She was there with him when he went.
Yes, and she was saying there was no temple, but Palpatine was saying, and that was what he was directing Durro towards, was some temple with drawings that he thought might be helpful.
Right.
All right, so I was just confused. Is there a temple or is there not?
I can't answer that question for you, dude. That you're asking me out of character to answer something that your character would have no way of knowing.
I just wanted to make sure that there was no mistake or discrepancy or misremembering on details on either of our parts. I was simply asking for clarification.
So you have recited correctly everything that Durro knows.
Okay. All right, that's all I needed to know. Make sure I wasn't misremembering anything. So Dura would look at her curiously and say, I was told that the information I was looking for was in ancient drawings in a temple, and yet you tell me that there is no temple you visited on this world.
None that we could find. But again, like I said, had to cut our expedition short. Simply too dangerous.
So you think Master Palpatine went back, found the temple, and that's why it's here in this journal?
Possibly. It wouldn't surprise me. He wasn't the type to sit around and do me. He it's not who he is. Honestly, he doesn't covet kind of a.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, this has been an enlightening conversation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What do you think is going to happen with, well, and he'll gesture around, all of this going on with this other tribe?
I think the attackers will be.
Even without your involvement?
Well, it looks like we're going to lose. The elders will ask me to be involved. I will battle meditate.
Ah, battle meditation. Somehow I expect you would go out there yourself and fight on behalf of your village.
If need be, I can. Or I can make every warrior of this village fight tenfold better.
Oh, he will stand and bow. Say, thank you for your time.
You will stand and bow.
Out of character, I guess polling the party, so to speak. Is there anything else I should do? I mean, out of character, I'm getting pretty tired. It's almost 10 o'clock, and I have a long day ahead of me tomorrow. So, but I am blanking if there's anything else I should be doing or asking about.
You covered a lot. I can't think of anything.
Me either.
Same.
All right, then Duro will leave the hut and return to the entrance to the village. See if the speeder's back and what's going
Okay.
on. I mean, I don't
Uh,
want to say where he goes exactly because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, pause it right there. You're gonna bow. She'll bow, and then your action is to. That's where we're stopping you. You're still at the temple at the end of the, or sorry, still at the hut at the end of this game.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm gonna do stuff. I'm gonna do a solo run with Tasara tomorrow. Please make sure you upload. Will upload your video so everyone can hear what you do.
You talking to me or to Sarah?
Tasara.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, 10 minutes. I'm not gonna be able to do anything but general introduction, so I'm not gonna do that. And I've been working on the side with Nova and Ava, so I think this is a good stopping point.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
None that I can think of.
Falynn just seems intent on killing everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I trust that woman about as far as I can throw her, which is not very far.
Wait, who's intent on killing everybody?
Falynn.
Not intent on killing. She didn't. She doesn't want to kill Tasara or Durro or Kenobi.
Oh, but she's totally fine with killing Hadaza and Astra.
Well, okay. The jury hasn't
Not
come
even so
back.
much Astra.
Yeah, I was about to say the jury's not hasn't come back on Astra yet.
Mm.
Oh, admit it. Everybody wants to kill Hadaza.
I will be admitting nothing of the sort because it's not true.
It's not true.
That's a fun game.
What's a fun game?
Tonight. It's a fun game
Oh.
tonight.
Pin the
Yes,
target on
but no.
Hadaza. Fun game.
More like pin the tail on Hadaza.
Hadaza's got
Yeah.
enough of a tail, thank you.
Yeah, I'm surprised somebody wants to talk about anything. No grilling the GM?
No.
Nope.
I will say it'd be interesting to see them try to treat both Hadaza and the Astra. Although they need to treat Hadaza real fucking quick.
Don't know that.
You having problems there, Astra? Starting to feel a little panicky?
Yeah, I love the way you were driving that wedge, Mike.
Ah,
Sledgehammer right down the middle of those two.
Look, I was just minding my own business, playing the characters.
Yes, well, now I feel slightly foolish because, as I pointed out, when Tasara and Astra were talking to Falynn, I, the player, was not there. So, I, the player, just like Durro in character, was relying on retelling of the information to get up to speed. And I do not remember being told to keep this a secret from Hadaza at all, because if he had been told that, Durro would not have said anything to her.
Hold on, though. Durro
he
wasn't
was.
there.
No, but he was told when Astra and Tasara were retelling, they told him that Falynn said they should not reveal it to Hadaza.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Durro himself was not in that meeting. It was just Tasara and Astra.
No. When he got back to the ship and they were retelling this
not-
to Durro.
You're not listening to what I'm saying, Astra.
I
Durro was not.
I acknowledged that Durro was not there. I was saying that I, the player, was not listening to that session either.
Well, okay. So even if you, the player, listened to it, does that mean you would have metagamed and not told Hadassah?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying I had that extra layer of protection that if they did not relay something when
Yeah.
retelling it, I did not know it because I was not there to listen to it out of character.
Now,
And
I think that's what Astra is saying, is that in character, Astra and Tassara told Durro, "Don't mention
They
this."
did. They did tell him in character when Durro returned to the ship, or no, when they returned to the ship and were retelling everything, they flat out said, Falynn warned us not to reveal this to Hadaza. So Durro was told.
well, if he was, I out of character missed it because if that warning had come across, then he wouldn't have said anything to her before he left for the village.
Well, I do recall us saying that to Durro, but as a player who has very often said and done things in character that somebody was like, no, we actually said that. I feel your pain that you didn't remember it because that happens to me all the time. But yes, Tassara and Astra did say, Falynn said, don't tell Hadaza. But it was late. It was at the end of the game, I believe. So,
Whoopsie pickles.
and it makes for a better story.
It sure does.
Yep.
And it gives, Hadassah the right to go, "Oh, hey, driving that wedge, are you?"
Yep.
The only problem I see is it adds a ticking clock to a situation where taking our time would have been ideal.
Well, I mean, shit happens in real life. Shit happens in games. I mean, you can't expect to play the perfect game.
Yes, I know, but you know,
Let me see if I understand some of this business that we're playing with. And here's where I start grilling the GM. Um, how long has it been since Tassara and Durro and the girls left the ship and have been in the village?
Oh, I mean, based off what you just said in the text chat by the fire, it's been 2 days.
Shouldn't have been 2 days. They were only gone for a day. Like, if it was actually 2 days, Astra would have been calling them because they were supposed to be back the same day.
Right?
Uh, I'm just going off of what you guys said.
now I was calling out her timeline because yeah, this was supposed to be a day trip, a field trip. This
Yeah.
has been this has been less than a day that they've been. They left in the morning, like mid morning, not super early, and they really should be back in time for dinner. This was just supposed to be a field trip.
So I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna pause you guys there. I'm gonna ask Hadassah a really important question, and Hadassah, I want you to answer truthfully and completely, regardless of what the answer is. Okay?
Okay.
Where did you get 2 days from?
My ass, honest to God. Because I'm playing it in my brain. They left. Durro and Hadaza had breakfast. Hang
Yep.
on.
Then you did.
Breakfast was second breakfast. And then a comforting thought came later that same day. They left. I assume it's that because now Astra and Hodge are on one timeline, and Durro and Tassara and the girls are slightly behind them. If I'm doing this math right,
So
because the
how
go ahead.
much time was consumed in Astra Tries to Teach? Because I know you guys did some teaching, did some playing around and everything. Then Hadassah passed out. For how long?
I don't think she has any idea of the time she was actually asleep. I will be really honest with you. So 2 days,
No,
theorem ex rectum.
Astra would. What does it say in the thread? How long was she unconscious?
The first time she went to sleep during the lesson or the second time?
So she slept
Because the first
twice?
time she was only out for like an hour or so.
Okay, an
'Cause we
hour.
And
did like an hour time skip.
she took that break.
Yeah.
Okay, so you studied and practice, right?
Yep.
And you did your retries and everything, and then she passed out for an hour, and then she woke up, and y'all did some other stuff, and then she went back to bed. How long did she go back to bed for that? And again, don't speculate. What does it say in the thread?
It doesn't say in the thread because she woke up during the session.
Okay.
For
Well,
the second time that she fell asleep.
then I'm gonna stand by what the player said. 2 days.
And my brain says that she got out of the back to tank morning for breakfast. So wherever that breakfast for dinner was, that was the night Durro put the girls down for bed
Don't.
after the no.
No.
That's
Don't do that. I don't want you trying to make it fit other events. We went straight off of Astra teaches.
yeah, but my 2 days out of the he says should we be able to squeeze in at least one 8-hour session per day. That was why is Hodge that's what it was. Why has Hodge not been sleeping in the back to tank? She hasn't been in the back to tank since before breakfast for dinner.
Because
So in my
Handyman's not there to put her in it.
in my recollection, she has not been in the back to tank since before breakfast for dinner. So everything else that's happened to that has all happened, and she hasn't been inside a back to tank since then.
Okay.
So all of that, all of those in betweens, and all of that field trip, and all of that stuff. This would then be if we assume she slept overnight in her own bed. We assume that this would be the beginning of day 2. Yeah, after she's not been in the tank.
Okay. So then this is beginning of day 2 since they left.
That said, I believe that in my own brain, two parties are on different timelines. Astra and Hadaza are slightly ahead because what's been going on in the village has been happening live, while what happened with Astra and Hadaza went on in in-between.
So pause you there. Durro to Sarah. About how much time would you estimate you've been in the village?
Since arriving with the other people that came in with us.
Right.
My estimate would be at the end of Durro's conversation, probably 3 hours.
Okay. And we'll say 4 to include a travel time from the Gungnir here. So 4 hours. Are you okay with that? Are you find that acceptable, Durro?
Yeah, I mean, I was already going to say 3 or 4 hours, so
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So we're solid. We're Gucci. We understand the timelines, right? Okay. Desara, can you make sure you update your little table?
Sure can.
Thank you. I want to make sure we keep this straight.
What table is she updating?
Secret.
I hate secrets.
You're a religious zealot. Of course you hate secrets. Unless they're yours.
No, I hate game master secrets because it usually means that there's trouble in our future.
It always means there's trouble in our future. That's Mike's favorite thing to do is torture us.
I was going to say, Michael's breathing. There's trouble in our future.
I will say this. There is a trend that you guys are doing that I'm really not liking. Okay? And I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm gonna start saying no. When I hear blah 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 would have done something, if you have the opportunity in gameplay, and I definitely give you guys opportunity in in-betweens, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear you guys say would have. Now, if you say something, oh, Durro would not have called Hadaza, a big skanking hoe. That's different. Okay? That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are comments like, I know, right?
I'm sorry. I couldn't help but laugh. It was funny.
What? I don't get the, rooster spanking the dog gift? Try again. Don't worry.
You're gonna get yourself hexed.
I know, right? Anyway, things.
I'll let my pins do my talking for me.
Anyway, when I hear things like Astra would have done this, or like recently said Astra would be calling, long before, 2 days, no. You guys have opportunities in gameplay to do stuff. You guys have opportunities in in-betweens to do stuff. I do not want to hear any more blah, blah, blah would have done this. You have the opportunities. Okay?
That makes sense.
Okay. Just making sure you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Who did that?
Had to be Davis.
That had to be the Davis.
That had to be
Damn it!
Davis.
Am I that obvious?
That's an awesome voice.
That was almost an Astra voice.
What?
No, if it had been an Astra voice, my ears would be bleeding.
No, Astra doesn't do that. Astra doesn't, go, okay.
I was about to say.
Are we straight with everything?
I'm not straight.
I was going to say.
Wait, what?
Oh,
Okay, I got it.
Well, no one's straight. They're all curvy.
Oh my gosh.
Not
I
where I
get
was
it
going with that, but all right.
I get it now. I got it.
See, I got it automatically.
that was funny.
So with Traveler's new rule, it seems like we're all going to end up like Professor Kenobi.
What?
But high pitched and sleeping with Falynn?
No, being 100 years old and not even realizing it.
Yeah.
I got to agree with that. Like, there's a part of me going,
Yeah.
how much time is passing exactly?
Yeah, because I understand where he's coming from and not wanting people to like try to retcon things, but the example he cited from tonight was Astra not understanding how much time had passed. When I feel like in character, Astra would definitely know how much time has passed. If a less than a day field trip was suddenly 2 days long, I feel like she would have noticed. And if Traveler sticks with his guns and says, "Oh, you didn't call in character, so you didn't notice," well, we're all going to end up like Professor Kenobi and be 300 years old and not even realize it because we look around and, oh, hey, a week has passed. I felt like an hour.
The thing is it's not only in this particular scenario where things have been retconned, and I've been pretty gracious about letting you guys retcon things. It's that, Astra had a scene, I want the players to start paying attention to the details around their scenes. And it was a conversation in the chat.
Yes, but I thought that was a joke because the Hadaza later went back in the chat and said, no, it was only a day. You're right.
Even
And then Durro was teasing her.
even if it was a day. Well, actually, I don't see where she went back and said it was a day. But even if it was a day, that means a day has passed. It's literally in the chat, and yet you chose not to say, "Hey, how much time has passed?" I was waiting for the question, but he asked because I was like,
no.
I was gonna say I'm gonna go with what's in the chat, and we're Gucci. I even sit there and notified Amy. I'm like, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and that's what we were doing. Oh, here it is. Yeah, no, it's really one day and one night. So one day, one night, since the Astra tries to teach.
No, one day and one night since Hodge has been out of
been in the back to tank. Yeah. That's what she was counting from.
Yep.
Okay, so even still, she got out of it one day. That makes this the one night, but she got out, and that was the day they left. So that means one night after she got out.
As far as I understood it, she got out shortly after the girls were put to bed.
Yep.
They did the thread breakfast for dinner. Hodge went and did whatever she did. I honestly forget. But Durro went back to the cargo bay with the girls, had his little run in with the avian thing, and then the next morning was getting the girls ready for their field trip. So that's where they are now on the field trip, and that's when Astra and Hodge had their Astra tries to teach moment, and then that's where everybody has left off. It's not even been another night since Hodge has been out of but she's been out of the back of the tank one night, the night of breakfast for dinner, and one day, the day of the field trip. It's not been a sleep period again yet. That was my impression, my interpretation of passage of time. The last couple sessions really have been taking place in a compressed time. We've spent a lot of time on on events that don't take super long.
I'm going to put forward one thing, that there is no making sense of this because sense is not to be made of it. And we will continue to bash our heads against the wall trying to make sense of something that we cannot make sense of. So it is 10:11, and I know that Durro has to work tomorrow. So my suggestion, take it as you will, is the answer is I don't fucking know. So we might find out when we get back together, but we can continue to hammer at the inconsistencies of the timeline until hell won't have it. Yeah. But I don't think we're going to get anywhere.
So here's where the problems has. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10. We have 10 in-betweens that happened in the course of a few hours. That's where these problems arise. You guys created these in-betweens. Well, 9. I created 1. And some of them are pretty short. Others of them are hugely time-consuming. And the storm only lasted a couple of hours. So,
Say 12 plus hours is not a couple of hours.
and why is it 12 plus hours?
Because
Because,
that's what you described to the players.
well, no, that's because that's what came up in Durro's journal, that the storm was still going on when he had his thing with the dragon,
Yeah, he chased Hodge out into the storm.
right?
He got rescued, spent almost 12 hours in the back of the tank, and the storm was still going.
Right.
The reason the storm was still going in his journal was because in session you said it was still going. That's how you described the cargo bay.
Okay. So,
Hand was blowing against the force field that held the air in, and yada yada yada.
yep. Okay. So 12 hours. All right. So, in which in between does the storm stop?
I don't believe it stopped in and in between. You told us
No,
it
it
had
stopped in
stopped.
live session.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
stopped in live session. Okay. So that means random acts of kindness. Let's see. Conversation. Conversations in the storm. That's Tassara and Astra. Okay. Then we have breakfast for dinner. Okay.
During the storm.
Is that during the storm?
Yes, because it was before Durro's encounter with the beast.
Right. Okay. So, and then we have let's talk. That's Astra. That's let's talk is Astra and Tassara during the storm. Then we have second breakfast.
That is after the storm.
Okay.
It's
All
when
right.
Yep.
So
right
now,
before they left on the field trip.
right. So that's right before they went on the field trip. So now we have a starting point. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in betweens. 6 minus 1 I started. You see, are you starting to see where we're having this problem?
Mm-hmm.
Durro, it's for you.
How many of those in betweens are Durros? I mean, I know second breakfast, but
Well, the thing is we have Ashra Hadaza. We have comforting thoughts. That's Hadaza and Durro.
that was very brief, though.
Okay. Then we have it's gonna be okay. That's Durro and Cheery. We have catching up with the Reckless Warrior. That's Hadaza and Astra. Uninvited guests, Astra and Durro. Tassara, we have Tassara visits Hadaza. That's Tassara and Hadaza. Second breakfast, Tassara and Durro. You guys are
Yes, but those
teleporting.
all happen
You guys are
before they
teleporting.
left.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is you guys are teleporting all over the place.
I thought Durros were pretty consistent, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'm
I was
putting
going to
too
say,
much in.
in fairness, they all are in the timeline right up until Astra tries to teach, and that happened. That was so extended and went on for such a long period of time that while the live play was going on in the market at one pace based on the real life gamer time and is still currently going on, time stretch that happened while Astra tries to teach happened over the course of what feels like a full day, which is where the timelines went kittywampus.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not upset, and I'm gonna hold the timelines the way they are, which I'm absolutely okay with. Nothing of what's going on is bothering me, and it shouldn't bother you guys either. Okay,
Hmm.
and don't sweat. I just want to point out, where we have where we have this issue. And I don't want you guys to try and correct it or try and make it fit or try to explain it away or say, "Oh, well, we'll say this is what happened." No. Let everything stand the way it is. I'll make it make sense. I promise.
No worries.
Well, that's your job.
Yes.
That's why we pay you.
You don't pay me. What the hell are you talking about?
No, we don't pay him.
Shh.
We just entertain the fuck out of him when we stumble into his damn traps.
You think that isn't payment enough?
The last thing I want to do is I want to infringe on y'all's creativity. I love the in-betweens, okay? Some of them are long as fuck, but I love them, okay? Durro?
Oh, I heard you.
Okay.
He's falling asleep though, so we ought to wrap pretty quick.
All right. We'll wrap up.
Yep.